Everyone, and welcome to the Amplitude of Tech podcast. I'm Sean Cordner, Chief Marketing Officer of Amplix. This is the Inside Amplix edition of the podcast. What does that mean? We're going to bring you thought leadership from Amplix employees, actionable intel and insights that we've learned by doing thousands and thousands of technology transformation projects. Hope you enjoy the episode. All right, Adam Rennert, welcome to the Amplitude of Tech podcast. This is the Inside Amplix edition. Happy to have you here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So Adam, you're my boss, but for everyone else here, why don't you let them know the other important things that you do?
For each other, that's definitely for sure. But, I guess it's Adam Rennert, president here at Amplix. I just help the sales team out, marketing, operation, anything I can do to help the company, help our clients. My background a little bit for those of you who don't know me is a dozen or so years ago, jumped into the contact center space, helping customers in this new evolution of cloud contact center when 100% of people were on premise, and helping them move into the cloud. And ever since, we continue to evolve how we help customers not just move into the cloud, but optimize that and continue to drive innovation to help improve customer experience and drive revenue.
All right, look at that pitch that you delivered. So I want to take I know that you have a wider aperture when it comes to the business and the technology landscape, but I want to keep it a little bit focused on CX for this conversation. I know that you are often in front of our clients, our points of contact, the technology leaders that we deal with, and you're in front of them a lot. You're a very client-facing executive. So I'm wondering if you could just tell us, what are the big trends that you're seeing right now?
I mean, there's a few, right? There's underlying trends and there's the visible trends is what I kind of call it. I mean, the visible trend is everybody wants to know how they could put AI within their call center. I mean, that's not something, if anybody's not hearing that, then you're having the wrong conversations with the wrong customers, because everybody's concerned about that. And concern is the right word because it's moving very, very fast. And there's lots of different options out there. And some of the latest and greatest that are cutting edge may not be what's best for some of these customers. Maybe the old tried and true technologies actually solve those use cases and deliver the value that they need without moving into cutting edge technologies. And that's really what the trend that we're seeing mostly with these clients is, what should I be doing? Is it worth me going in this direction? Should I go down this path now and wait a little bit longer? So that's the biggest of the macro trends. The second trend that we see is just augmentation of, I call it cloud contact center 1.0. So they deployed a cloud contact center, they moved from their on-premise technologies, or they deployed their first cloud contact center environment. And now they're looking to optimize it with other areas within the business. It's been sitting there for a few years. They're trying to figure out, is this still the right technology for me? How do I make this work better for me? And a lot of clients prefer not to have to move. So we're just seeing people dig in and see, what can I do with what I have? Can you help optimize that? And then the third major trend is it's kind of what's been around for 10 years, right? There are a lot of people that if you could believe that, there are still a lot of people for whatever reason, could be regulatory, it could be fear, could be lack of change management internally, looking at moving into more advanced and cloud technologies for the first time. And that's a little scary for people to do. It's been scary for years, and so these are the last holdouts, I would call them, but not holdouts in a negative way, but more about just their business and evolution. They're finally there, right? So we are seeing that still.
So I want to look under the hood a little bit of each one of those. I'm going to work backwards because I think the AI is going to be the bigger conversation here. But when you talk about the people that are still holdouts that are on-prem equipment and they're looking to go to the cloud for the first time, you gave some reasons why these people may have been holdouts, but what are the reasons that are driving them to be looking at it now?
Well, I think there's number one, there's the macro view where AI is, you can't go anywhere. You can't walk into the grocery store without an AI sign or somebody mentioning AI somewhere, right? So AI is just all over the place. So there's a lot of pressure on these teams to do something, right, and show that they're innovating. But there's fear, right? There's fear of, this is what I know. What if it breaks? I've heard stories about people deploying AI and it didn't go well. I can't fall into that. I can't afford to hurt my business. So they're in a tough spot, right? It's like, can't win either way. If they move and it doesn't work, they're bad. If they stay and don't innovate, it's bad. So they're struggling, right? But it's mostly the need. AI is driving people to lift their head up and say, I probably need to do something to move us forward. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind.
It's probably a lot of times the fear of the change and the potential disruption that could come with it. But now that these on-prem systems are starting to reach the end of the life, some of those companies aren't even around anymore, at least in the form that they once were. We've got to be getting to a point. What's that saying, that change only happens when the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of making the change? Is that what's happening for a lot of these people? Is
That's
that the
part of
pain?
it. Time,
Yeah.
time. Ultimately, everybody stopped using the abacus. Ultimately, everyone stopped using the typewriter. Everyone stopped using, those things. So but there's always people that, it still meets their need, right? And even though they don't realize that if they moved, it would be so much more efficient. It would be so much easier for them. But that change, someone told me a long time ago that it's not change that people are afraid of. It's that transition period between where you are today and where you are tomorrow. That chasm, people fall into it and just get scared of getting falling into that chasm. But everybody comes out the other side saying, "Oh, thank God we did that. Why did we wait so long?" Right? But it's not change, it's the transition period that's just scary, right?
So
For a lot of people.
do you have any words of assurance for the people that are kind of on the edge here and know that they have to make a change soon and they just haven't walked off that ledge yet?
Well, listen, for the people that have never that are still on, let's say, 20-year technology, 15-year technology that's on premise, it's getting very expensive to upgrade, maintain, and all those type of things. And there's been thousands, tens of thousands of enterprise level customers that have moved into the cloud. So if they have done it, it could be done successfully. You just have to have the right plan, the right strategy, and really map out the right transition plan to get there. But it's not as scary as it was 10 years ago, where it was kind of new, right? And no one really understood what the cloud would look like. You're lucky to get three nines out of a cloud, infrastructure environment. Now you're getting four and a half nines out of most of these platforms. So uptime's there, the transition plans are there, and it can be done.
So back to cloud migrations. What do you think's driving that? Is it that the technology has moved so significantly, or use cases have changed, or the financial structures have changed?
I think there's a few things, right? I think number one, right? So number one, still the AI hangover, right? AI comes in, everyone's like, we need it. AI. So they look at what they have today and they say, well, if we're gonna look at AI, then why not look at everything? I should just look at everything that I have, right? Is it still right for me? I think the second thing you said is, yeah, economics, right? Some people who bought it 5, 6, 7 years ago, the economics have come down for the core, right? You kind of look at the core. But really, I think what's really driving it is you look at COVID, right? You look at 2020, 2021. That's 5, 6 years ago. That's typically when people start looking at, like, is this the right thing? People want to keep something. They don't want to change, right? At least, especially in 2 or 3 years, 5 years is kind of the thing. And think about how many people moved to the cloud, the acceleration of cloud adoption during that time. And I think there are a lot of people who actually rushed to judgment because they had to do something with the business. And I'm not talking about one or two customers. I'm talking about thousands and thousands of enterprise customers who had to do something. And so now they're lifting their head up and saying, okay, is this still the right thing for me? There's more options out there. The vendor landscape has changed significantly in the last 5 years. So let me see what else is out there. It may end up being that they stay with what they have and optimize it, and it works for them. It may be, hey, my business has evolved enough that this solution no longer meets our needs. But there's a lot of options out there, and things, and the business and economic environment has changed a lot in the last 5, 6 years.
If you go back to the time where the first drive to cloud-based contact center was starting to happen, I think you had the platforms that had the core functionality, and you started to see an ecosystem of niche providers that were plugins and add-ons to the platforms that had specific functionality that they could help with, right? Like workforce management, or having a AI agent on your website, or whatever. Uh, I'm wondering if that has changed a little bit, in that the platforms are starting to add some of these capabilities and these ecosystem players used to fill. And do you have a view on, taking a platform centric approach versus, having the platform and then looking to niche providers?
It's a tough question, right? Because it's always the age old question of, do you go all in one or do you go best of breed? And then you look at best of breed and you say, well, I'm getting 15%, maybe 20% better or different functionality than I can get in the all-in-one. Is that good enough? Do I need that functionality? I think sometimes that's what's happening. And in this age of AI proliferation, and the ability to spin up a new solution that is similar to what's already there, but maybe has something a little bit different is very easy. And a lot of these companies are getting funded, with lots of money being thrown at it for them to develop things. They develop it very quickly. So you have all these point solutions out there. So my view is they're good products out there, right? And if, as long as they fit into the ecosystem and all the integrations are clean and it makes it easy to transition in the future if you have to, right? If you end up saying, well, this core platform that I have doesn't have that functionality today, I'm going to go with this point solution. You have to make sure that it doesn't lock you in forever, be it so tied in that you can never pull it apart. Now, you may never want to pull it apart, but if you do, you need that flexibility. So that's a long way of saying it's still a market of some all-in-one, some point solutions. A lot of very, very good point solutions out there that are solving specific problems that the core providers may not even look to solve, because it's when they look at their development cycles, they're saying, I have all these things I need to put on my roadmap that hit as many customers as possible. Do I focus on this niche area? Do I focus on this one area here? And that's where a lot of the standalones can. That's where they put their R&D into those specific functionalities. So they're always going to be a little bit ahead. And so there's no one size fit all. That's why it's important to do your homework up front. You develop your use cases, understand what the environments look like, understand what your environment looks like, try to predict what your business is going to look like in 3 to 5 years. Make a decision that gives you flexibility within those 3 to 5 years if things change, and just doing the right diligence up front is
And you
key.
probably want to make sure that you lead with the use case first, as opposed to, I found this sexy platform and let's see if we can figure out how it fits into our ecosystem,
I
right?
will talk about, I'm not going to mention the customer's name because, NDAs and stuff like that, but I was just on the phone with a customer late last week showing me what they have. And that's the exact problem that they have. They said, we allow the different business units to make decisions on their own on what's going to be best for their business. And they have 39 applications that are essentially solving 4 different things. And so it was just mind boggling. I mean, literally, like, well, this one wanted it for this and this one wanted it for that. I'm like, are they even using it for that? Well, no, but it was a cool feature. It's like, okay, well, the cool feature, all it did was make you have all these contracts you're trying to manage and trying to get all these integrations in. And now you have a plan of consolidation and you don't even know where to start. So it gets very, very difficult. So you just have to be careful about chasing the shiny objects, because there's shiny object everywhere nowadays. Every morning I wake up, the first thing I do is I spend an hour researching. I look at what's going on in the market, and it's a new something new every day. And they're not new doesn't always mean it's the best thing for your environment, right? You really have to do your homework and make sure it's not just a shiny object.
We've heard a lot over the last year about businesses reacting to the macroeconomic uncertainty, by looking for cost savings and trying to free up budget. And some of the conversations that I've had, it seems like one of the key places that they're looking is license rationalization. They're looking at all their SaaS applications and trying to figure out, do we actually need this? Do we need all of these licenses? Are there overlapping functionality for some of these platforms that we can then consolidate and eliminate one of them? And it sounds like this is a really prime area to look for those kind of cost savings.
That's definitely a primary for the people that were, I would say, forward thinkers. I don't want to say that it's kind of like making too much credit there, but people who are like trying to say, "Oh, I got this new stuff. Let me try this new stuff." But it's like anything else that's new; it gets out of control. And if you don't have good rigor internally about vetting, then you get it a little bit out of control. But yes, there is a lot of focus on, do I need this when I renew my contract? Do I renew for a lower amount, knowing that I'm going to be driving efficiencies with automation that could possibly lower that license count? Those are all things that we help clients with and other people help clients with. But that's a big trend right now, is license rationalization, not just in the contact center. I know we're talking about that specifically here, but across the ecosystem.
Yeah. So, speaking of cost savings, let's lead into the AI conversation. Are you finding that people are looking to AI as a way of freeing up budget and realizing operational cost reductions? Or are they looking to improve productivity, enhance the abilities of their agents, or is it something else?
The initial view from Wall Street and all the analysts is, hey, this is going to save you tons of money. You're going to put in automation on the front end, what I call front end automation, which is, the agents on the front end, IVA agents on the front end, and you're never going to need a human, and so you're going to cut, it's going to cost you, $2,000 a year for this license versus $50,000 for like, and that is not how it all works out. So it starts there, right? And there is efficiency, but it's not just about one for one. Oh, I replace this and I do this. There is some efficiency there, but a lot of the other efficiency comes in like the back end, and I call it the middle. The back end is analytics, right? AI in analytics and quality management can really zero in on where are the agents really having problems, where do we need to improve internal process to better serve customers, where that can increase revenue and increase customer retention. How do we leverage that data better, right? And that is really, we're seeing a tremendous amount of adoption in that space. And then that leads down to circling back to agent assist technologies. I call that in the middle, because you have the front end automation that never gets to an agent or triages, and then it gets to an agent who can then be more efficient. But then there's agent assist technologies that leverages that information combined with CRM and other information and the analytic information for them to be more efficient. So it's kind of like the Amazon. I just ordered from Amazon this morning. I need something for my house, for my daughter. It automatically gave me some suggestions, on, hey, you may want this too. And I'm like, oh yeah, I do want that, right? And that's kind of the easy answer of saying, like, in a complex environment or a call center environment, we're trying to make it easier for the agents to do that. So it ends up giving a better experience and increasing revenue. And so those are really what those are about. But there is cost savings to be had. I mean, whether we like it or not, we prefer to use non-agent interactions. I do everything. I love to do either DV, a digital agent, or a voice agent, and I solve it. Now I'm in the business, so I always get those solved properly, and I know what to say, and I know what the trigger points are and the words are that will make the machine say, "I don't know what you're talking about," and I avoid that. But a lot of people want that, right? And then there are a lot of people want other interactions that it's better to talk to an agent, and that's really what this will evolve into. Is there's going to be more interactions going to agents that are more sophisticated. The agents are going to become more sophisticated, and they are becoming more sophisticated, and the easier ones are just getting solved with automation, and that's where the cost savings come in. So commoditized product and commoditized problems are way more cost effective to solve and order now than it was before. That's through people and just process and things like that.
Would you say it's fair to say that it's more common that people are deploying AI on the front and fewer people in the middle and on the back end?
I would say the front and the back are the two that people are. The middle is a little bit more complicated, because I think a lot of people are first saying, like, how do I get the calls that are easier to automate that don't have to go to the agent? That's really what a lot of people are focused on. And there's a lot of missteps that happened when AI has been around for a billion years, but when AI became hot with ChatGPT, everybody's tried to use AI on the front end to solve too many problems. And it ended up not solving the problems. It ended up increasing costs, and people got disenfranchised and dissatisfied. So once people kind of settled in these last 2 years, kind of said, hey, look, let's really take this as a diligent approach and look use case by use case and slowly increment and add the use cases. That's really what's focused on. So that's really taking up most of the time. And then back end, when you talk about analytics and quality, we can really see improve the agent that way. That's really the most effective way. The agent assist technologies are starting to become much better, but it seems to be it's the third pillar is making the agents more efficient, leveraging that technology versus the front end. And
So I know this is a difficult question to answer, but for the people listening that are technology leaders or contact center leaders and they want to benchmark themselves against their peers, where do you think they should be in the adoption curve? Like, can you give me an example of like what a good, solid, we're getting started, but we're not in over our head and we're not lagging behind environment looks like?
that's really big. That's like, do we have another 49 minutes to like talk about that, or maybe 2 hours? Look, every customer. This is what I've been telling this for 10 years, and I'm going to tell it for the next 10 years. Every customer is different. Every customer is in a different state of evolution, whether they have good or bad change management processes internally, whether they have personnel that are buying into change, whether they have budgets, whether they, what all the whether they're different industries that have regulatories and they're concerned, all these different pieces. So you really have to look at every customer. And I would say that if I had to pick one, I mean, people should be looking at the front end automation to solve some of their simple cases. That might just be triage, where it's it solves 70% of it, passes on to an agent. An agent could be really efficient. It could be full containment of those calls, but that they should be looking at use cases that can do it. It's very cost effective to get some of these solutions up and running on the first use case and start seeing those benefits. But it's very hard to say where you should be or shouldn't be. The last thing I would say on that is also a lot of use cases and automation can be solved through automation, not AI, right?
Mm.
So those are two different things. People use those in conjunction, synonymous with each other, but they're not. They're very different. There's different forms of automation that these technologies can provide. And going to agentic AI tomorrow when you've never done any automation at all and your people don't understand it, it may not be the right thing. And you may want to start with a more simple use case. It doesn't need that level of advanced knowledge, right? So
That's
that's
really that's an important point. I think I've heard that. We just had an event, as you know, about a month ago in Cape Cod, our technology leadership conference, and that was one of the key things that the chief AI officer of Progress.com, I think he was the one that was saying that is you don't have to use AI for everything. Look
right.
at where AI actually is the right solution or the only solution, as opposed to the fun solution or
But what AI has done is forced people to really look at that more closely, which is a very good thing. Because before that, it was kind of like, I'm not sure, but AI has forced you to really look at the use cases. Then, if you're really thinking strategically, you're saying, okay, what's the best way to solve, most cost effective way to solve this that doesn't drive complexity into my environment that I can implement in my change management process and my team can digest. And that may be something very simple that's already inherent within the system that they already have, as an example. Or they don't have to do a forklift. They just add in a point solution that can solve that for them. So, but again, everything doesn't have to be the cutting edge next fancy word that comes out around AI, right? I think you have to just really look at it closely. And that's where we're seeing a lot of customers that have got onto that now. They're saying, I'm not just diving in head first, like a few years ago. I'm really thinking through this. And that slowed down a lot of decision making, but it'll speed it up and make it more effective once it gets implemented.
so. We've talked a lot about the client trends, right? End user trends. Let's talk about the vendors briefly. One thing that I'm seeing a lot of, I'm sure you are too, is the terminology starting to change. You're not hearing CCaaS much anymore. You're hearing CX, but where you're starting to hear more and more is AI enabled CX. And so it seems like the trend is that AI is becoming, the norm. It's becoming the core of what they're going to market with. What are you seeing from a vendor perspective?
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody's changing their names to something, something, something.com to something, something, something dot AI, and all of a sudden they're an AI company and their valuations are going through the roof, and then they're all excited, and then when that halo effect falls off, it's come down to earth, right? You can't just slap AI on something. But yes, everybody's putting AI enabled this or AI enabled that, and that goes into what we just talked about, which is it really AI enabled? You know, what does that really mean? AI enabled, and it's really important that you get underneath that. It's really important to get underneath that just so you know. It's still because you still may go back to simple use cases need simple solutions, right? Don't need something that's AI enabled. But yes, that is going to look fast forward, however many years you want to predict, 5, 10, a million, two, AI will be the brain and the core around all of these. And the rest of this is just orchestration, right?
Right.
Of the solution. Right now, it's still got a ways to go to be able to get to that. But that is the evolution in the vendor landscape. You also you have big guys that have trillions of dollars that are throwing money at trillions of dollars at it. Then you got the next people with billions, you got the next people with hundreds of millions, keep falling down. But everybody's putting money into that and we'll continue to invest heavily in that in the next couple of years. And then we'll see what happens, right? I think what you're going to see is though in the vendor landscape, you'll see fallout. You'll see it's a natural curve that you see in every industry cycle. Like you're going to see the burst, you're going to see the leveling. Private equities, venture capital, are like, okay, I want to see the results now. No more money until you get the results, and then we're going to see what happens. We see what consolidates, and then you get to a more normalized view of, and the vendor landscape becomes a little bit more simplified. Right now, I'm telling you, every day I get a phone call. Hey, we got this new AI product I'd like you to look at, and one's green, one's blue, one's purple, but they all kind of do the same thing, and they're all funded by similar people, and it's just hedging the which one's going to make it, right?
Yeah.
So it's just interesting. Sorry, I went on a little tangent there, but it's just fascinating how much money is out there now being thrown at this. It's really, I think it's something that we've never seen before, and we'll see. There's gonna be a lot of fallout in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think I read recently that this is the largest concentration of capital as a percentage of GDP since the Louisiana Purchase.
That's crazy. And what you're going to see is, I know this is what's going to happen. Right? You're going to hear the oops. Then a couple years, like, oh my God, I can't believe we just spent 100 billion, trillion, gazillion dollars on this. And you end up, there's going to be, there's going to be some survivors that are, again, in the trillions and the billions and the hundreds. There'll be survivors and all of them that have something good to offer. But it's crowded out there right now. And so our team, we have 100 people on the team that are focused on CX and constantly reviewing, constantly looking at new providers. Are they get- are they going to make it? Do they have a differentiation? How are they going to fit into the ecosystem the customers have? I mean, it's constant, right? And it's fun. I mean, it's exciting times, but it's also challenging,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I've been in this industry for almost 30 years now, and there's been several cycles in my career that are, a new technology lands, it's disruptive. There's a huge expansion of the vendor ecosystem. And then we go through a cycle of consolidation until there's only a handful of the big guys left. It sounds like you're expecting the same kind of thing to happen here.
Maybe more than a handful, maybe a few handfuls,
Sure.
right? But yes,
Few handfuls. But regardless, I think there's some risk of putting your money onto a vendor that may not make it or may exit in a way that doesn't, prove favorable to you. Do you worry about vendor lock-in, or should the people listening worry about vendor lock-in, or, getting relying too much on one particular company?
that's kind of what we talked about earlier. It's not about one company that, you have one company that can do a lot of things for you. That's probably a little bit safer, right? If they can meet all your needs, right? But you just have to make sure you have the right contracts, right? You have the right plan to know that if you're going to buy something, what is your exit strategy, right? What if they evolve as a company and do things different that you want to, because they're moving so fast. They may evolve and you're meant to be ready to evolve with them, right? So, or what if they have financial struggles and you want to do stuff? So in your contract negotiations, in your integration plans, all your integration plans should include what's the exit plan? What if, right? And I think very few people, you know, actually have a what if plan, right? What do we do if this happens in a year? In 6 months, a year. And with the AI, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. Other things you usually have a couple years, but now it's moving so fast. So that's what I would recommend, is making sure you have an exit plan.
Yeah. And of course, the importance of having a company like Amplix looking out for you and helping you through the procurement process is just becoming more and more important as the technology accelerates and expands.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take that shameless plug. I'm just kidding. But yes, I mean, obviously, that's one of the reasons why we exist, and we've existed like that for a decade and more. Is helping customers through these type of evolutions and making sure that we're looking out for their interests. A lot of times the vendors love the vendors; they do a great job, but sometimes they're very singular focused on them. Where we are singularly focused on the client, right, and the long term success. So whether it's us or somebody else, I think we are helpful right in that process.
Any final thoughts or advice or tips for the people listening?
No, I think we talked a lot about it. I mean, the number one thing that we're continuing to see has been like the last 18 months, and we're going to see it, I think, for the next 2 to 3 years. Is just making sure you're doing diligence on AI, right? Just because it says AI and someone says I'm dot AI, is it really AI? And then there's different variations of AI, and there's automation. Make sure you really do your homework on the front end, right? Jumping into something with 2 feet. We've seen so many clients that have come to us and said, "Oh, I wish I spoke to you a year ago." Right? I did this, they said this, and now I'm here. And so just do your diligence, do your homework.
And if there's a client out there that wants some help or wants to pick your brain, or a new AI vendor that wants to cold call you and see if they can get in the ecosystem here, how can people reach you?
I was going to say, I'll give you my son's phone number so he can beat out for you. Just kidding. No, I would say, look, a Rennert at amplix.com. Anytime, give me a email. I'm not going to give you my personal cell phone on this platform yet, but then we can chat for sure.
Sounds good. Adam Renner, thanks for your time and expertise.
All right. Thanks a lot, Sean. Take it easy.